There we go, Mike. We're on.
Okay, well, hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Professional Insights, brought to you by the National Referral Network and hosted by those two guys. Who are those two guys? Well, I'm Mike. He's Mike. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Good morning, Mike.
We look alike. Yes, you're not seeing double. We are here once again. And the purpose of these live streams is to share information, professional expertise, really wisdom, and you guessed it, insights from a professional that we're confident everybody who looks at this can use. Today, our guest is Ari Sommer, who's an estate planning attorney extraordinaire. Hello, Ari. Again, you look like you could be 8 feet tall, but he's really not 8 feet tall.
Not quite.
He just kind of looks
Good
like
morning,
it.
Mike.
Good morning.
Yeah.
So Ari, I'm interested in something you said earlier before we got on, which is how people who think they have an estate plan might not, and how people might blow up their estate plans without knowing it. So what is the first thing that if you think you have an estate plan and you want to go look at it and check, see if you do, what should they be looking for?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, I encourage working with professionals to put together your estate plan. And so one of the first things that I will see when I'm reviewing an estate plan for someone is, oh, they tried to do it themselves last time around, right? They hopped online and used one of those services. And I've actually got a case right now where someone did their own power of attorney and then they signed it wrong. It was husband's power of attorney and wife signed it. And we didn't catch that until we were pretty deep into things. So, I find people having those kinds of execution errors, those kinds of trying to save a couple of bucks now. I tell people all the time, attorneys love those do-it-yourself plans because you make a lot more money fixing it than if you just come to see the attorney to do it right in the first place. So certainly, one of the big things is, well, okay, did I even sign my documents right if I did it myself? Did I catch all the things I was trying to catch as I was putting it together? That's like really the easy one to spot as an attorney. Other kind of mistakes you might make as a person going to see an attorney is working with someone who just dabbles. By that, I mean someone who says, oh yeah, we can do that. When you come in and say, I'm really interested in asset protection. I'm really worried about estate tax. And someone says, oh yeah, I think we can do that. That's something that someone here can do, right? It is super important to make sure that you have the plan that you want and that you need to work with folks who are actually deep in that area specifically.
So Ari, in your bio, I found this pretty interesting, is that when you started your career, you weren't quite sure where you wanted to kind of fall. How did you get into this side of law? And more importantly, this whole holistic approach, what was that turning point for you?
Yeah, so I got into this area because I was one of the lucky ones who graduated in the midst of the last major financial crisis. And so when you graduate to go do commercial real estate in New York City, when there's no real estate being sold in New York City, you got to figure out something else pretty quick. And I answered an ad to go work as an administrative assistant in another state for an elder law practice that I knew nothing about, and immediately realized that I would get client interaction every single day. And, working with families who have real needs, not some multi-billion-dollar developer or whatever. And that was much more my style and my speed of what I was interested in actually doing. I'd say that, I kind of went along for a long time saying, this is all I do. All I do is asset protection and elder law, tinged estate planning, helping people with Medicaid, helping people with veterans benefits. And then at some point I realized I'm doing all this planning, but I don't have that much experience on taking it to the next level, right? So you do your wills, you do your trust, and then someone came in, a client of mine, saying, mom has died, you helped her. Can you help us now administer her trust? And I said, yes, because of course, I have to, right? I set it up. And then in that process of administering the trust and administering, working through probate, you learn so much more about how much better you can do what you're already doing. And then in the last couple of years, I expanded that further as I became more of a litigator and found all the mistakes that people make in their estate planning, in setting up their documents, in setting up how they use their documents and who they appoint. And so for me, I feel like my practice really got really good in the last several years as I was able to look at it from all these different perspectives.
Wow. So you never got a chance to ask anybody if they ordered the code red? No, just kidding. Ari, when somebody has questions and they need information about how to develop an estate plan, what questions should they be asking, and where do they go to get the best information?
Yeah. So the questions they should be asking themselves first is, what am I hoping to accomplish here? That is, I think that a good estate planning attorney is going to approach their clients in a goals and values-based way. So not, I encourage people not to go into an attorney and say, I need a will, but rather say, here's what I'm hoping to do with my estate. Here's what I'm hoping to do with my plan. And then see if the attorney treats that as, okay, well, I have different tools and I have different options that we can use to help you accomplish those goals that adhere to your values. So I think that the way to really understand if your professional is going to meet you where you are is whether they're going to be more interested in what you're saying to them than what they have to provide to you. Obviously you're there for solutions and tools go into those solutions, but you shouldn't be, when you go into someone and it seems like they've got kind of one size fits all, that's when you want to be skeptical. And as far as where to get good information, most states, their state bar puts out some sort of pamphlet, and there is an American Bar Association pamphlet as well on estate planning that kind of helps you define some of the documents and some of the tools that are used, and some of the considerations that you might have, like, well, what happens if I want to leave money not to my child but to a grandchild because I think there might be tax advantage purposes. Those are the kinds of general questions that hopefully those sorts of pamphlets will help you bring forward. But I also encourage you to ask the professional that you've decided to meet with where else they should look for information. I've got a great partnership with actually another attorney who's in the National Referral Network, Evan Farr in Northern Virginia, and his website has a wealth of information about, like frequently asked questions, what's the difference between this kind of trust, that kind of trust. So knowing that your professional is part of a broader community that provides different kinds of information and different kinds of feedback can kind of help you understand that your professional is actually trying to give you the best advice and not just, the best costing advice or the most lucrative advice.
So Ari, you mentioned meeting a client where they are.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked to clients, and what is the starting point? I know there's tax implications to having estates of X amount of millions, but for somebody that may seem like, look, I don't have any assets. Like they might have a house, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, where is that level, that line that says, I need an estate plan, or is there one?
That's a great question. And just for a bit of background, I don't do any estate tax work because Virginia,
Okay.
It's, federal level. I'm just not interested in those, $25 million estates. I've got great
Gotcha.
colleagues who handle it. Right. So for me, it depends a lot on kind of stage of life type things. Right. So I've got a lot of clients who are, maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, where they don't have anything, but they've got kids, right? Or they might be married. And so we're doing an estate plan because maybe they have some life insurance through work, right? They own some sliver of their home. And the most important thing is naming who the guardians of their kids would be and who would manage, the assets that come from life insurance. So generally, if you have anything at all, or people that are important to you in your life, it's important to think about having some kind of estate plan to direct assets, to appoint professionals, and representatives, because it's not just about upon my death, here's what to do with my stuff. It's also, if I've got a lot of clients, where we are, we've got a lot of military and government contractors who travel all over the world. And so we do, when we do a power of attorney, it's not just when they're incapacitated in their 80s one day. It's, hey, you might be overseas and your spouse needs to sign to refinance the house. So we're doing these kinds of documents with a lot of different views toward what they might be useful for and when they might be useful.
So is a good way of maybe saying it is you probably need an estate plan if you either love someone or owe someone, something like that?
I think that's fair. Yeah,
Okay.
right. Because it's, a lot of things are, if you don't set anything up, there's going to be a lot of trouble, right? If you haven't appointed someone to act for you, guardianship and conservatorship, I know these are like hot topics in popular culture because of the Free Britney and similar things with conservatorships. Conservatorship is what happens if you don't have a power of attorney, right? If you don't name someone to act for yourself, if you're unable to act, then someone else gets to pick who's going to act for you. Okay. And so that's why we do these sorts of things, early on.
Okay. Now, Mike, you had a situation where the person that was in charge didn't know they were in charge. How do you avoid that?
Ari, I had a client who was named successor trustee, didn't know it, and then her friend died, and that's how she found out.
Oh my gosh. Well, that happens for sure. The problem, oftentimes people will say, oh, well, I haven't asked this person if they can be, if they'd be willing to be my backup to my backup trustee. Do you think I should get their permission first? And I will generally say, you don't need their permission, but it's generally a nice thing to tell someone, because otherwise, you want someone to actually take over. But I mean, to the point, I think that you need to, if you trust someone enough to put them in that position, hopefully you also trust them enough to be able to talk to them about, hey, here's something I'm setting you up to do. It's highly unlikely you'll ever need to do anything with it, but here's the attorney to call, here's my financial advisor, and here's my tax professional. Call them, they'll get you situated, and you can move forward from there.
Okay. So Ari, as we wrap up, how do you mentioned the National Referral Network and some of the other members. How is your membership in NRN helping your practice get to the next level? Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing is because it's, it's not just my local Virginia, or kind of, DC, Maryland area. I frequently have clients with family or someone else, saying, oh, I need an advisor, a financial advisor, but I don't know who to go to. And I don't want to use someone, in Virginia, we want to use somebody, somewhere farther flung. So for those sorts of things, it's been incredible because I can provide high quality referrals to, to my clients or my clients' families. And I've seen the appreciation that I get back. Like I've got a close friend who owns a coffee shop down the way who I sent her to work with, John Heck down in Florida on a specific insurance thing. And he was amazing cutting through, the individual, her individual needs and some of her health history to get her insurance where, where the local kind of, franchise owner places were just sort of like, well, no, you're not going to qualify. You're not going to medically qualify. So it's been huge to make me look really smart and to make me look really connected by being able to, have this broader range of folks that I can refer to.
All right, that's great. Mike, any a finer endorsement I couldn't, I don't know what to say. Mike, you wrap it up.
Look, Ari, I know that you're traveling. Certainly appreciate your time. Appreciate you being in the National Referral Network. You're always here to create value. We've done a lot of interviews with you over the last couple of years, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Okay.